Tuesday in Tryon, North Carolina. It's still raining. It's still clouds hanging over the mountain, and it's been a pretty nasty day. It's only been in the high 50s today, so tough day. Have you watched the politicians in the last 3 or 4 months? No matter how stupid a statements they make, and I'm talking about Democrats and Republicans, it's never their fault. It's always somebody else's fault. There's always a misunderstanding. Very few of them want to step right up and say, I messed up. I got the rioting confused in the Middle East with the rioting across in New Jersey, or I take full responsibility for Benghazi, or whatever it might be. I thought you might enjoy this little quip that I found a number of years ago. It's called Passing the Buck. The college professor said, such rawness in a student is a shame. Poor high school preparation is to blame. The high school principal said, it's plain to see this boy's perfect fool. The fault lies strictly with the grammar school. The grammar school said, I would that from such a dolt I might be spared. They send them up to me unprepared. The kindergarten teacher says, ne'er such a lack of training did I see. What sort of person could that mother be? The mother says, you stupid child, but then you're not to blame. Your father's folks, I know, are all the same. Nobody wants to take the blame. I heard a couple of jokes too that I used back when I preached this message. A husband forgot his wife's birthday, and she said, how could you possibly forget my birthday? The father said, honey, it's because you never look a day older. Or the husband that stayed out all night, and his wife was waiting for him with blood in her eye and ready to really criticize him. And as he ran through the door in the morning after being out all night, he hollered to his wife, don't pay the ransom. I was able to escape. Well, that's exactly what happens to we as Christians. If there's two or more people involved, it's always the other guy's fault. And it's important for us to remember the scriptures and some of the stupid statements that some of the people in the Bible said. For example, in the book of Exodus, when Moses tarried on the mountain, the people became anxious and went to Aaron, and they said, what's going on with Moses? We need a new leader. Aaron suggested that they give him all of their gold. And it says in chapter 32, verse 4 of Exodus, that he hand fashioned with an engraving tool and made a molten calf and said, this is our new God, O Israel, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt. But when Moses confronted Aaron about what was going on down in the camp when he came down, Moses said, you know these people. I mean, you've had to deal with them yourself. You know that they're stubborn and self-willed. And he said, now listen to this in chapter 32, verse 24. They gave me their gold. I threw it into the fire and it came out a calf. It's really humorous, but it's not so funny because I know that even in my own life, whenever the garage would be a mess, I would blame it on my teenage son and getting into all of my tools and spreading things out in the garage. But after he was gone 3 or 4 years, the garage was just as much of a mess as it had been when he was there. I couldn't blame it on him anymore. I had to step up to the plate and say, I didn't put all my stuff away when I did my last project. In Psalms, in the 32nd chapter of Psalms, in the 5th verse, David said, I acknowledge my sin to you. My iniquity I did not hide. I said, I will confess my transgressions to the Lord, and you forgave the guilt of my sin. Selah. David said, I acknowledge my sin. I'm not going to hide it from you, God. I'm going to confess my transgressions. And guess what happened? God forgave him. I wonder how often people would forgive us if we would just step up and say, I messed up. I made a mistake. It's very, very interesting because the New Testament in 1 John 1:9 says it so very clearly for all of us to hear. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and righteous to forgive us of our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. Want a cleansing? Why don't you confess? Why don't you tell God that what he already knows, that we messed up and we need his forgiveness? That's the reason he sent Jesus to die for us. Why don't we just appropriate that provision that he gave for us? Why don't we take responsibility for what we do? Why don't we confess when we've messed up? That's your thought for the day. God bless you and have a great day.